Hello and welcome to Altered Geek Unlimited, Episode 9. I'm your host, Steve Megatron Phillips, and joining me as always is Mike Booth Ninja Powers. Hello, sir.
Hello. Oh, how's
How
it
goes
going?
it? It's going good.
Yeah,
First episode since GrandCon.
yes. And again, it's been about a week and a half since we recorded last.
Yeah,
Man, I don't like we need to find a way to just always record on Thursdays, although that's not going to be. I would imagine our Thanksgiving episode will probably be recorded on a Monday as well.
more than likely.
But that's because we want to get it to you guys.
Yes, consistency is key.
And we're trying really hard. So, GrandCon,
Yes.
did you have
Uh,
fun?
yeah, I think that it was fun. It was interesting. It was actually kind of what I was hoping it would be. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know. I mean, we had an idea what we wanted it to be, but we didn't know what it was going to be, so we weren't able to plan anything.
no.
Um,
But we did hand out some decent amount of flyers and have conversations and get kind of noticed around there, so that was kind of cool.
People liked our shirts,
Yes, they did.
even though someone thought it said Gorn.
Yeah, somebody said, "Is that Gorn?" Which that's actually quite funny.
Uh,
Should turn that into a shirt on the store.
I don't know. Maybe next time we make the shirts, we should actually include
The name.
the right below. I mean, I like the shirt. Don't get me wrong. It was weird to have people ask and then have to be like, oh, I'm just dumb and didn't put it on the shirt. But I think the reason that ended up happening is because that was the logo we were going to use due to um, restraints put on us by the local T-shirt people.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason. Otherwise, I think I would have included more on that.
So, um,
But but yeah, it was definitely a fun and interesting con. Um, got to meet some people that are familiar with us
uh,
and some that aren't.
I know it was. I know you were only there on Saturday, but on Sunday, I think everything had kind of relaxed a little bit because everyone. Well, first of all, Saturday is like kind of like the first day of the actual con, and it was the first one of it. So everyone was kind of like didn't know what it was going to be or anything like that. And on Sunday, when we all went back, we were talking with some people, and we also played some. We actually got a chance to actually play some games.
Oh, nice.
Because Joe, as Joe said on Off the Cuff, he actually grew a pair and decided to go into the game library and check out some games. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, we played. Well, actually, in all fairness, the only game that I played with Danner and with Allie. We played a game called Let's Kill.
Okay.
It's a card game. I liken it to like kind of like the Grand Theft Auto of card games. So you
Okay.
have the idea is there are some of the cards are victims, and it's like Sally the schoolgirl or Petey the kindergartner, and they're on the board, they're on the table in front of you, and then you have location cards like coffee shops or like the post office, so you have locations. um Anyways, what ends up happening is everyone's assigned points, and eventually you get weapon cards, and
Okay.
you just like locations can you can stack up people in locations, or you can kill one person on the board with one of your weapons. So you can get like a sniper rifle that can kill 5 targets,
Okay.
and you can use it on the you can put 5 people in the post office, and
Oh,
you
wow.
can kill all 5 of those people with a sniper rifle. And it's funny because you get to build the description, because all the players have descriptions, and they're all assigned a point value, and you're trying to get to 20 points before anybody else can. um and then there's like surprise cards that you can lay face down under any target on the board,
Mm-hmm.
so like you can booby trap people. So like
Nice.
like for instance, with the cheerleader, you can put a surprise card underneath her, And when someone goes to kill the cheerleader, they flip it over and it says, "This cheerleader is really faithful to God. Thus, you don't take any enjoyment out of killing her, and you don't get any points for her."
Wow.
But nobody knows this until, they go to kill that target.
That sucks.
So yeah, it was. I mean, it took us. It was kind of rough to get started because the rules were a little complex. There's like some shootout rules. For instance, one of the targets that you can kill is the president of the United States, and he's worth 10 points. The only problem is when you go to kill him, his Secret Service starts a shootout with you.
Oh, okay.
So you can shoot him with. I mean, you can take a weed whacker to him if you want to, and try and kill him. But then automatically there's a shootout ensues, and if you don't have a gun in your in your weapons, you can't fight back. And when the shootouts start, it's you versus everybody else at the table. That's
fun.
So what happens is you lay down a gun and you fight and you fight back, and then everybody else at the table has to lay down their gun cards if they want to fight back, because everyone else at the table becomes the Secret Service. So everyone automatically has to lay down their gun cards, and if you have more gun cards than they do, then you win.
Okay.
And then whoever wins gets the points. So I don't know. It sounds confusing, and like I said, it was rough.
A lot of those kind of games are confusing the first time you play them.
Yeah, I mean, I like games like Let's Kill. Another one of my favorite card games is called Chrononauts. It has to do with like destroying timelines and creating alternate realities.
Nice.
It's a lot of fun to play. It can take a little while to play. It's not exactly a quick game. My wife doesn't really. I mean, she has fun with it, but she never wants to actually sit down and play it. But I like games like those where the rules for the cards are on the cards. Like they tell you, like you don't have to look at the rules every time you pick up a card. You just have to read the card.
So it's an ever-changing game, so it never is the same.
Right. So it's nice. And then I saw, I guess, Danner and Joe played Cards Against Humanity. It's like Apples to Apples, but it's more grown up.
Okay.
And then Danner found, I believe there is an Android version of it, but we all have iOS devices. It's called like Apple Seed or Evil Apples. And it's Cards Against Humanity on your phone.
Okay.
So you can play with.
I have an Android, so I'll have to try it.
So and I think the way that it's set up, I don't think it matters. I think like I could even play with you. Like just because you're on an Android, you're not limited to playing with just Android users.
Okay.
I think the way the app is written is that as long as anybody has their app, everyone can play together.
Okay.
Which is kind of unique. I don't know of too many games that do that. But Allie, I didn't buy anything at the con. My wife did. She got one of those the 3D cards that the guy was doing.
Okay, yeah, I remember her talking about that.
Yeah, she was really excited about that. It actually turned out really cool. She paid like I think $9 for it, $9 or $10.
That's not bad.
I mean, no, not for some guy that's actually sitting there in front of you doing the work with an X-Acto knife and a cutting board.
Yeah,
I didn't have a problem paying him for that. Did you see or pick anything up?
Well, like when we went through the room, I was hoping to find some model ships for one of the games, of like Federation starships for the Star Trek.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they had those little. Well, I mean, I don't know how many people actually remember these micro machines. They look like micro machines.
Yeah, they look like the micro machines, but more detailed and they're bigger.
Yeah.
I really liked I used to have all the micro machine ones growing up, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But I wish I still had them. But yeah, they didn't have anything that I particularly wanted. And then some of the games I probably would have picked up had I had more money and the wife's blessing. But it's the only thing I actually bought was I bought a couple comics from Danner at our own booth.
Oh yeah, we had like a mini geek garage sale going on. It was all
Yeah.
incestuous.
Yes, it was all in one table, and I bought 3 comics from Danner, and then I managed to sell 4 or 5 of my comics to the same kid who actually came by like 3 times and bought 2 issues per shot. Um, so I actually paid Danner with that because I didn't have enough ones on me, and then uh, I had food money for dinner, so that actually kind of worked out. Um, but no, I mean overall, I saw a lot of neat stuff. I just um, it was interesting to take in that inaugural year con to see what kind of thing to expect in the future from it.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't. Again, we didn't know. I keep saying this, and I feel bad for people that are listening, but we didn't know what to expect. And I think, like before we were going, we had conversations about maybe we don't need a table, maybe we don't want a table. And then Joe had told me that he was actually going to sell stuff from our table, so I was like, "Yay, we're going to have stuff to sell." But it was kind of. I mean, I was feeling I was kind of like maybe this isn't going to be like for us. But after we got there and the day kind of progressed, it was kind of like, no, this is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like I was like, oh man, I want to come back. And there goes your cat. Pay attention to me. But yeah, no, I felt a lot better after being there. I was like, yeah, this we can definitely be here, especially after we heard that they actually do panels, which we didn't know anything about. Um,
No.
so now I'm kind of like I want to like start hitting the pavement and running and uh trying to grow the audience even more than it's already grown so that we can actually do a panel that's worth listening to.
Oh, I know, and I'm really interested in doing that as well. And should we do one at a GrandCon? I actually have a buddy, the one that I originally started the Tabletop Enthusiast podcast. I did the one episode with.
Okay.
I actually met up with him today. Had I known that or remembered that he had the day off that day, I would have invited him to come too. And um, I know that he's expressed interest in sitting there, and he said that he would help if we wanted to do a gaming panel along with other stuff and how it correlates with comic collectors and everything else. So,
Right.
because I was kind of talking to him about that today, uh, but but yeah, I mean, I definitely want to pursue that and try and grow it to the point that we could do a panel about something in the future.
But first, we got to get to the point where we can actually do a Google Hangouts.
Yes, yes. We have 2 people interested
We need
so far.
we would like to have more.
Yes.
So tell your friends.
So preferably if we could get 10 people
Yeah,
at minimum.
I think that would be nice because then maybe we can get everyone mingling together.
Yeah, I mean
And
that would be something cool to try.
asking questions and everyone engage. That's the one thing I've noticed about the forums, or at least the comment threads. Even though the comments have been plentiful, um, I don't. There is a whole lot of uh, intercommunication going on between the fans.
No.
I mean, that's fine. Comments are better. Some comments are better than no comments. It's just, I can't wait till we get to that point where we might have to actually start moderating.
Yeah.
Oh, dreams. That would be
Yes.
fun.
That would be fun.
So,
Um but
but
yeah.
want to go back.
GrandCon. Definitely cool and definitely hope that we'll be there again next year. So should we answer the questions from last week before we get into the listener feedback?
Yeah, I think that would be. I think that would be a better way to go. Is for us to answer the questions and then, or we can read the questions, the question, answer it ourselves, and then share the answers, and then move on to the next one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. I think that works.
Regarding tech questions, what program do you? This is Sean Alteria. Sorry. Regarding tech questions, what program do you use to record your podcast? You indicated it was done through Skype. So does Skype itself have a recorder? Also, is I'm sorry. Is that what you use for editing? This may sound like a dumb question, but this process, what's the process like for getting a podcast on iTunes? I've heard it's a huge pain. Now this is going to be really interesting because we have Steve does everything on Windows and I do everything on OS 10, so we might have a nice round picture here.
Yes.
Why don't you share your Windows side of how you do it?
Yeah. I started out using Audacity. When we originally started the network, we used Audacity to record the audio on our own ends. Basically, we started recording the shows much like this podcast is recorded.
But without a master track? Is that what was happening?
What happened is somehow because of Skype at the time, the audio got out of sync and we didn't really do a countdown.
Is it? Well, I mean, I guess I've heard about that because I've read articles about syncing multiple tracks, and that I don't think it's Skype that does that. It's like it's if you have if the audio recording settings are different in any way.
Yeah, it could have been that too, because I know TFG1 and I had two different setups as far as like the settings on Audacity, and he had a newer OS than I did, so
Yeah.
his version was slightly different. So that could have been part of it. Could have been the microphones. I'm not really sure because we had real cheap ones back in the day.
If you're doing that, you have to make sure that everyone has identical recording settings. But anyways,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh no, that's fine. But then eventually, somebody told me to use Cool Edit Pro, and I kind of looked at it and I was like, yeah, I'm not messing with this. And I obtained Adobe Sound Booth CS5, which nowadays it's Adobe Audition. Sound Booth doesn't exist. They had the two different suites and they just kind of merged them. But I still use Sound Booth because I prefer its interface. And I find that I can do a lot of things in that program that I couldn't do in Audacity, whereas there's a few features in Audacity I can't do in Sound Booth. So it's kind of I use them as I need them. Like when I record audio from DVDs, I use Audacity to do it.
Okay.
So that I can cut certain clips from it, and I use Sound Booth to put together the master track and assemble all the separate tracks into the master and export it from there.
So we covered your recorder and your editing tools. What is your experience with? We talk about this behind the scenes a lot. What is your experience with getting a podcast on iTunes? Because I know yours is completely different than mine.
Well, I guess we also missed another step in the recording process. There's also two other methods that you can do, which use Skype, and they integrate into Skype. There's one called Pamela Call Recorder, which TFG1 Mike uses, which it takes everybody's tracks and puts it in one. However, it does also take when somebody's connection is jittery and cuts in and out. So it does capture that as well. So you don't get the best audio quality, but it does capture everyone into one file.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the free MP3 recorder for Skype, which does the same exact thing. It's just free. But that's neither here nor there. It just depends on your preferred method of editing. As for iTunes, I used to hand code all of my RSS feeds for the site up until earlier this year. I eventually downloaded a program called Blueberry's PowerPress or PodPress. I can't remember the name of it. It's one or the other. It's changed names. So, anyways, I can take a category and convert it to a feed, an RSS feed, so that when it's pulled, And so I didn't have to change the links in iTunes that were already submitted. I use FeedBurner to synchronize, because you can link it to wherever whether it's an RSS file, whether it's a category thing through the PodPress. Um, it's kind of a dynamic link that's there, so it stays with that um, RSS feed, and you submit them into iTunes from that feed, which I use the FeedBurner one, which is through Google now, so that it pulls all the information. It pulls the show art, it pulls the description, it pulls the title, and then you have to wait the 3 to 5 days. Now, on the off chance that iTunes goofs it up, they want you to rename the feed or change the RSS link or something like that, because we're currently having problems getting Beyond the Night, his Knight Rider podcast, on iTunes. And we had a problem with several other shows showing up for a while, and then finally got them on there. Either they'll tell you to change the URL, which, yes, that is a huge pain. Like we said, it's been a year since that show's come out, and it's still not in iTunes because they can't get it right. And I can't really change it. So you either have to go through hell emailing iTunes themselves under the podcast directory to remove your stuff and then have to resubmit it, or get them to change it on their end, which you could email them and not get an email response back for like 2 weeks. So it's a pain if it doesn't work right. But when it does work right, you get the show right in iTunes, and it's no hassle after that.
Okay. Whoa. The power just go out of your house?
No. Lights flicker.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
They for those that don't know, I'm recording in my basement of my townhouse that I'm renting. And in the background, which you cannot see, which you would be able to if we're on Google Hangouts, I have my washing machine and my dryer in the background. Well, there's only one plug in the basement.
Ooh.
One. So they ghetto rigged a wire up the wall through the ceiling, which is dangling by the lights right there, and then it goes down into a pipe, and then they put a 2-prong plug on the wall where my computer's at. So it's split between, and I have another like power strip over there with a TV and a Blu-ray player. So I have that and a deep freezer down here. So there's a lot of crap plugged into that one plug.
Yo.
So it's not fun. So every now and again the lights just go bzzz, and then they go back to normal.
I think Steve's trying to set himself up to collect insurance money.
No. I'd rather not lose all my shit and have to rebuy it.
Okay, so now that we've figured out the flickering lights in Steve's basement,
yes.
My experience with podcasting has all been from a Mac or from OS 10, which Apple makes it. I don't know, like I don't know if it's because Microsoft just can't do it, or it's just different philosophies between the two of them. But it's like if Apple sets out to do something, they go like whole hog with it. Because iTunes is a freaking beast.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I like iTunes. I've used it I used it when it hit Windows in 2003. Is when I first started using it. And it's actually what got me to buy a Mac was iTunes.
Nice.
But they go all in, and everything is all the apps get tied together into suites, and they make it so easy to just do what you want to do. In the beginning, like the first I did a show called the lunchroom or the lunch table, whatever, depending on what day of the week it was when we recorded, if I called it table or room. I would record with some of my friends who also have Macs, and we would use we wouldn't use Skype, we would use the built-in messenger in OS 10.
Okay.
which is called iChat. And with the free audio editing software that comes with OS 10, or with a Mac, I'm sorry, with a Mac, it's called GarageBand. If
Okay.
you have an open conference call going, and you open GarageBand and you hit record, it assigns a track to every single person that's talking.
Oh, cool.
So it's not I'm on one track and then everybody talking in the thing is on another one altogether. If I had 4 people going, I would get 4 separate tracks. So then
Nice.
I can cut audio out, and you don't have to worry about syncing or any of that stuff. You just had to worry about whether or not you had good microphones and your bandwidth, didn't do the crackling stuff. Unfortunately, those people that I had the Macs, they weren't able to always be there, so I started having people over to my basement to record shows locally, and we still captured in GarageBand, because you can do that too. It's actually a pretty good pro, what do they call it, prosumer, not professional but not consumer grade. It's like called prosumer. And it's actually really good for like creating music and jingles and stuff like that. And there's actually a template called podcast, like already in it. And it sets you up with like a male audio track, female audio track. It gives you all the different filters. Like I have, like when I go and mix our show, I put the male, it's a male radio noisy filter over top of yours.
Nice.
Which completely cleans up the entire, cleans up the track even more. But, and I apply that to mine too. But, sorry, side note, you go through and you start doing all this stuff, and it's like, they show you how to, if you do it as an AAC file, they allow you to add your chapter markers, your artwork that changes, all this stuff is done right in this app. And when you're done with it, at the time, I was doing my website on another Mac app called iWeb.
Okay.
Which you can use. I was using my friend's hosting service for free. So my website was set up on his stuff, but I was editing it from this app on my computer, and I can make all the changes behind the scenes locally on my computer, and all I had to do was click publish. And then it would ping his server and update what needed to be updated, and then it would be done. But so when I was editing in GarageBand and got it all done, I'd say export to iWeb. And then it would export the audio, mix it down to MP3, and then send it over to iWeb. iWeb would open up and it would say, "You have a new podcast episode." And it'd be like, "What's the name of the episode? What's the description? Do you have any artwork for it? Blah, blah, blah." I say yes, fill in all the information, make it a post. There it is locally on my machine. And then I'd say publish, and it would go up. They also had that was like the easiest way to submit a podcast to iTunes too, because
Nice.
right in the app it said submit podcast to iTunes, and you got to see what artwork was going to be used, what tag was going to be used, all that stuff, and boom, that's it. 2 days later, like from the initial setup process of getting the show on iTunes, 2 days later it was there on iTunes for me to view, and episodes.
Nice.
Publishing that way. Even when I switched to Squarespace, publishing it, like for me anyways, using with iTunes, it showed up almost instantly. It might not have shown up in there, like if somebody went searching for it, the newest episode might not have shown up. But if you subscribe to the podcast, you would be able to download it as soon as I publish the show.
Oh, wow.
So because you're technically, when you subscribe to a podcast in iTunes, it pings, you're pinging the RSS feed that you provide. You're not pinging the RSS feed that iTunes. It's not checking iTunes for the episode. It's checking the RSS feed. So, but GarageBand presented a fair number of problems. I added more people to the show that didn't have Macs and they wanted to use Skype. GarageBand also had this weird thing that I've never been able to work out. I've never been able to figure it out. It crashes after 30 minutes of recording.
Huh.
Like you can record, I can record a podcast for 30 minutes, and then I can stop it, save the file, and then continue recording for another 30 minutes. I don't have to close it or restart or anything. But if it goes like 30, if it goes to like 35 minutes, I get this error that says your file is something something something. It will be saved as it is. GarageBand needs to quit. The only problem is it says it's saving, but it's really not. So and your only option is to force quit the app.
That
So
sucks.
so long story short, my friend did like one of those app bundles that you see online sometimes, where it's like pay $50, get $500 in apps. Um,
Mm-hmm.
One of the apps that he got in the bundle was called Wiretap Studio,
Okay.
and it allowed you to capture up to two sources of audio independently of each other in one app. So it's kind of like your call recorder.
Okay.
Um, the only difference is I don't know, the call recorder is tied only to Skype, correct? Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
This is anything on the computer. So like right now I'm looking at it and it shows that I have my channel is being recorded as the Nessie. It says Blue Nessie because that's the mic that I use. And then the other input is the Mac audio. So any audio that comes out of my Mac is captured by this app. Um, it used to you used to be able to do application specific recording. So I could say
Okay.
just record the Skype audio, and then you wouldn't get any of my like notifications, or like when I get a tweet or my instant messaging stuff wouldn't show up in the record. Um, but that's been broken, and it's been broken for a little while now. Um, so I've kind of learned to mute or turn off system sounds. Uh, so basically, I record using Wiretap Studio, and I think it's like a $30. No, it's a $60 app. If if you don't have a way of getting it for free, um, but I use that. I capture all the audio in there, and then I dump it in GarageBand because it's still a great editing tool. Um, so and then from there, I export it to iTunes, change the metadata sometimes,
Yeah.
and then we
Nice.
post it. Uh, I like GarageBand. I've messed around with OS 10, like the professional stuff like Logic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I didn't, like GarageBand is so dead simple. There's no reason not to. There's no reason for me not to use it. Unfortunately, it's aging, and Apple has kind of dropped updating it. So it's one of the more ancient apps on my computer. So it's on its way out, sadly. So
It
yeah,
happens.
I mean, I had a really easy time getting stuff on iTunes. Um, Even like using FeedBurner. I did my first show. Um, Actually, it was funny because I did the lunchroom. Like the first version of the lunchroom was done, and then something happened, and I stopped doing it. But um, I wanted to be because I set it up through iWeb. I didn't know how to make iTunes change the RSS feed that it looked at. So
Okay.
I couldn't use FeedBurner on the first version of the lunchroom.
Ah, that
So
sucks.
eventually I stopped producing the show for so long that the thing actually disappeared from iTunes, because shows delist from iTunes if there isn't any content or any updates on them for like 6 months or a year or something like that.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't
they'll.
think they do that anymore.
I think they do.
Hmm.
I mean, maybe not, but they. I had to resubmit the lunchroom to iTunes. I don't know if it was when I did which version of the show it was when I did it, but I resubmitted it using the FeedBurner feed, and did it right the second time. Um, so
Hmm.
whatever, it is what it is. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's not hard. It's not anything hard to do. It depends. For me, it just comes down to how much work do you want to put into it. Um,
Yeah, pretty much.
uh,
I mean, at this point,
luckily,
that's what it is.
luckily, uh, Steve and I get to experiment with this show, and spread it around to other things. So,
Yeah, we get to play around.
but good question. All encompassing right there. Uh, the other question from last week was geeky things we're OCD about or weak to.
Yes.
You want to read some of these?
Yeah. Let me see. Trying to find some of the OCDs. Danner puts, I'm super OCD about my comics. If I miss an issue, I will continue to collect the series but not read them until I find the missing issue.
That happens with me with TV shows. I have my stuff all set up to automatically download, but every once in a while I'll come across one of those episodes where I'll start playing it and it'll be like the previously on, and I'll be like, what happened? I don't remember any of this stuff. And then I'll go and look and I'll realize that I'm missing an episode, so then I'll not watch it until I have a chance to download the previous one.
I don't really blame you on. I don't really like not knowing what's going on.
I don't collect comics out of order either. Who collects comics out of order?
I do. If I miss one, I don't worry about it. I buy one anyway.
Right.
But I more so buy because of the title.
Sean Alteria says, he says, regarding the OCD thing, I always tend to buy those things they have displayed right before checkout, especially at grocery stores. I have no intention to buy a candy bar, but I'm stuck in line long enough, I'll walk away from the store with 3. Guess it's why they have those there. Hook, line, and sinker, buddy. Hook, line, and sinker.
Yep, you've been had.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm susceptible to that. I mean, we talked about that. I see an ad. One of the reasons I'm glad I don't get to see ads is because I'm very susceptible to them, and I will have to go and find said product. Or, I mean, even if I don't buy it, I have to go and touch it. I have to go find someplace that has it. But I don't do. I mean, maybe I'll buy a candy bar every once in a great while at the checkout line. But usually it's like I'm thinking about it before I even get there.
Yeah, it's kind of how I am.
Usually if I stand in line long enough to even think about purchasing something from there, I've been in line for too long and I'm already irritated.
Yeah, that's kind of my opinion on that too.
But that's Walmart at 2 a.m. with one register and
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep, that's what that is. Let's see.
King of Kongs said he's OCD about video game collection. He hates to see it out of order or not properly put away. Plus, I don't like people using my controllers with messy hands. Don't need their grudge ruining my systems.
Wow. I've never had a problem with my controllers. I mean, yeah, you break one or you throw it across the room, we're gonna have words. But I've never had problems. I mean, I know you had something to say about this, right? Like you have your own controller, you don't let anyone. So let me get this straight. If you're playing a game where you're gonna pass the controller around, do you not play with your controller? Like so that you pass one that...
For instance, my GameCube, my GameCube controller, I actually saved it when I sold my GameCube. I gave away the other controller that had like a little bit stickier button.
Okay.
Whereas the one that actually came with the GameCube, I had 2 GameCubes over the course of the time that it was out. One of them I bought used because the original one I bought brand new in the store. My parents still had at their house, and because kind of a offshoot tangent, the only way I was the first game system I was allowed to own was the GameCube because we had computers growing up. And the only reason that I had the GameCube is because I went out with my own money from my job, bought it, and the only reason they let me have it was because the excuse I used, which was it was a family gift so that everybody could play it. And when I moved out, they wouldn't let it come with me because of that. So I bought another one when I moved out, and I sold that set And then eventually my brother wanted an Xbox and he was going to sell it. And my mom told him, no, you're going to give it back to your brother. So I ended up with my original GameCube and GameCube controller, which he didn't use because he had a wireless one.
Hmm.
So I still have that GameCube controller. So I use it on my Wii when I play Smash Brothers. And I will not let anybody use that controller. They have to use the GameStop controllers.
Ah.
And because I like the feel of the original controller better. Same thing with my Xbox 360 controller. I have the wireless one, and everybody else has to use the plug-in ones.
There you go.
Because I'm an ass like that. I like the feel of it, and I want to sit on the couch.
Right. So I think that, okay, if you want to get your pen ready for, I have a question that I'd like, because you brought up the whole, like, you bought it under the guise of a family thing.
Yes.
And that reminds me of how I got my parents to get broadband internet.
How'd you manage that?
Well, help me figure out how to phrase the question when I'm done with this story. But I was, it was my first semester home from college. I'd just gone to college, and they obviously, colleges have high-speed internet in the dorms. And before I'd gone to college, all I had was dial-up internet through AOL. Woo!
Okay.
The broadband internet in college completely changed my life. Being able to stay signed online to AIM like all the time and getting messages from your friends while you're out, coming back. But I came home from college, and my parents still had dial-up internet. And I was just gonna be back. I was just gonna be back for winter break. But I was like, I'm not doing this. I can't do this. So I got my mom. I sold the idea to my mom, to get it for the family as a Christmas gift. And I got my dad on board because my dad pays the bills and he has to kind of have the final say. I got my mom to buy the hardware. But I sold my dad on high-speed internet because he was really big into eBay.
Okay.
And I used the now you'll be able to snipe people right at the last second. And yeah,
Nice.
so I wanted it for myself, because I didn't want to deal with, for the 2 weeks I was home for Christmas break, I didn't want to deal with dial-up internet. But I got my parents on board with it, so that I wouldn't, with broadband, so I wouldn't have to deal with dial-up. I guess the question is, have you ever manipulated your parents, or hidden, like, or disguised something geeky, to your parents as a family thing, like Steve did with the GameCube, or my need for like broadband internet, I snuck that in as a family thing, but really I just wanted it in the house. Share those stories with us.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm interested in hearing, and how you pulled it off, if you did it.
Manipulative geeks. Yeah, sounds weird. Yeah, like I said, I don't have a problem with people playing with my controllers. Sticky buttons, though, that's I do take good care of my controllers. But what's really weird is my PlayStation 3 controllers, the shoulder buttons, the ones that are like the triggers, if I don't
Yeah.
play with it for like 30 minutes,
They stick.
and I can't figure it out. But once I start using them again, they're fine. But I put it down for 30 minutes and it sticks again. So it goes like the first time you pull the trigger, it's like snap. But the other PlayStation 3 controller I have doesn't do that. The only reason I don't use that one is because my cats chewed the nubs off the analog sticks.
Oh, nice.
Jerks.
Connor Murphy says, I agree with King of Kongs about controllers. I treat them better than most people treat their kids. I also can't stand any type of smudges on my phone. Spend so much time making sure it is as clear as can be.
The phone, I mean, I just got the 5S, and I'm very paranoid with it, because the screen is so clean. Every once in a while I look at it and I've got like a fingerprint smudge on it, but it looks like it's a scratch, and I'm like, oh no, not already. But then I wipe it off on my shirt and it's fine. I don't care about the smudges on my phone, man. I care about them on I care about smudges on screens that are not supposed to be touched.
Yeah.
Like my computer. I hate touching my computer screen. I hate touching my TV screen. Like I will avoid dusting my TV for as long as possible over fear of putting a streak in it. Um my I like I don't
Can't
know.
say I blame you.
Um so yeah, screens that are supposed to be touched, I'm kind of okay with it. What I don't like is talking on the new smartphones that have the giant displays, and you've got it pressed up against your face, and you pull it away from your face when you're done, and it's just got your face grease all over the front of it.
Yeah,
That I hate.
I kind of agree with you there. Yeah.
I hate that more than I hate my fingerprints on the screen. So,
That bothers me as well.
let's see what else we got here.
We have.
There was a really lengthy conversation between me and other people about TVs.
Dan is OCD about movies, and he says, hold for surprise in a number of ways. For one, when it comes to my Blu-ray collection, it has to be stored properly, alphabetized, and I even used to arrange by genre. But I've gotten away from that now. I just split up TV from movies. He says, I can't stand it when stores combine them both. I tend to stay away from stores that don't properly display their movies, and ones that have things like a specific criterion section garner my attention more.
Okay, I do this. I think actually my games are my games aren't my movies are alphabetized. But sometimes when I'm alphabetizing them, I'll put like franchise stuff next to each other. Like for instance, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight are next to each other.
Yeah.
Because they're Batman movies. So like stuff like that goes together, and then I break it down into like my anthology collections. Like I have, like I have the 3-pack of Pirates of the Caribbean. I have the Aliens movies, the Back to the Future, the Jurassic Park. Like they're alphabetized, but they're on a separate shelf. And then I have a Pixar shelf, which is, obviously, like as the name implies, is just a Pixar movies.
Makes sense.
The presentation of movies in stores, I totally agree with that. I used to love going to Best Buy and looking through the movie section, because I could just go to the Blu-ray section and find the one that I want, because I haven't bought a DVD since 2007 when I got my PS3. I just stopped completely. But now at the local Best Buy here, they decided they didn't save space. It's still the same amount of shelves, but they decided to mash the DVDs in with the Blu-rays.
I know, that's so annoying.
And I hate it because you go and you look and they've got like the sale price and you're like, oh, it's $10, and it's like the DVD. It's like, oh.
It's such a letdown when you notice it too.
I don't like the way that it's so weird. I don't know why they decided to do that, because it's the same amount of shelving space. I just, maybe they're trying to like fool people into buying DVDs over Blu-rays or something. I don't really get the whole point of that. It just makes me not want to go over there because that section looks so ugly. And
I have an idea. It's because it's Best Buy.
I like Best Buy.
I love Best Buy, but I just anymore it seems like they're kind of a outdated thing.
I think I like the sidetrack here. I like the way that they seem to be going for this tech mall approach, where they have like the smaller stores inside of their big box,
like the Microsoft store, the Apple store, the
Samsung.
Yeah, I mean I kind of agree with you there. I really like what they're doing with that. That kind of makes a little bit more sense, at least for that part of it.
The only thing I hate about Best Buy is that they don't help you with anything in there. I mean, yeah, they'll help you find something that's on the shelf, but if you like, we're going to talk about TVs at the end of this episode, but if you go there trying to get help on a TV, they will not help you.
Oh, I know. They're horrible with that.
I mean,
and they also kind of classify you based on your age.
When I was first when I was first doing my research when I started researching HD TVs, I went. It was 2006, and I went to Best Buy to see what they had because I liked Best Buy. I liked them better than Circuit City. But then I went over to Circuit City and was playing around over there and looked at some of their stuff. And I found out that, that's when I found out that all store models are like blown out and whatever. And you should ask to actually see HD footage plugged into a TV in the store, and that you should ask to see the remote. And so I went to Best Buy. I said, hey, can I hook up an HD source box to this TV and can I play with the remote? And the guy was like, no. I was like, okay, whatever.
I will
So,
buy your TV.
well, yeah, I went across the street and I went over to Circuit City. I said, hey, can I hook up an HD source box and play with the remote for some TVs? And they were like, yes, you can. In fact, we have an HD source box and you can take it to the TVs, you can hook it up and you can play the stuff.
Nice.
So, and on top of that, they also let me bring in DVDs from home. Like, I didn't have Blu-rays yet. They let me bring in DVDs from home and play them on the TV just so I could see how my stuff looked on their TVs.
Hmm.
However, there is a two-step process when you're researching TVs. One is to find the one that you like, and then the other one is to find the best deal on that TV. I went back to Best Buy because they were offering the TV for like, I think it was like $1,500 for the TV, and they were offering it with a $500 gift card.
Okay.
I was like, oh, I can use a $500 gift card to Best Buy, not a problem. But just to give Circuit City the benefit of the doubt, I went back to them. I said, listen, they're offering this TV for $1,500 and a $500 Best Buy gift card. I was like, can you guys match that? And they just flat out said no.
Wow.
So I went back over to Best Buy and I bought it from them. I mean, Best Buy got the sale, but they didn't help me do any of the research. It's kind of like, why help someone do the research and why waste your time helping me do stuff and then not, actually try and get my sale?
Yeah, that seems kind of weak. It's like when you go to buy a car, they actually try and get you to buy it there at that moment.
Yeah. Well, now, we can talk about this later. We can talk about it at the end of the episode. But yeah, Best Buy. I just like going in there and looking at all the stuff and touching it all. Now they have there's a thing right when you walk in the door now on the right hand side by the mobile section.
Yeah.
It has all these little toys that I want to play with or that I want to own.
All those little tech devices that are sitting there at the table.
Yeah. They have like I've been looking at this Nest thermostat for my house for like the last 2 years. It's just really expensive, but it's really cool. I can't sell it to my wife yet because one, we don't have air conditioning, and two, we don't have that big of a house. The other thing I've been looking into is like this Pebble smartwatch, which sends all your text messages and stuff to the watch on your wrist, so you don't have to like look at your phone. Yeah,
nice.
That's really cool. I have a Fitbit fitness tracker that I really enjoy. And now all those things are like right there when I walk in the door. And I'm like,
nice.
What are you guys doing to me? Like, this is just, I want to buy everything right here.
It's like the checkout lane.
It is. It's like when you're walking in the store and it's like, man, I want that Pebble watch so bad. Or it's like, man, you put another Fitbit right here and I already have one on my wrist. But no, it's just, I like going there because I like playing with all the stuff, and we still buy games. They have a horrendous pre-order system there. I can't ever, whatever.
I haven't liked their DVD section anyway since they remodeled it, moved it where the music CDs used to be.
Yeah, I don't know. We can talk about
I miss the old
stores.
location. Yeah.
Later.
That's another day.
Yep.
That'd
be fun.
Yeah. Dan, he mentions also in his thing that he says, for example, I will never watch a movie for the first time on basic cable. TV edits butcher movies so bad it can forever ruin your experience. He says each year I also have a goal to watch at least 100 films that have come out in that given year. In 2012, I watched about 170 and counting. This year I'm up to 60, and that should double within the next few months. Not to mention, I have to log all my movies in Letterboxd and keep an Excel spreadsheet with every movie I saw and rate each film in 8 different categories. He says, my spreadsheet is rather crazy, includes top 10 lists, movies I need to see, and my overall top 100 movie lists, which I rework at the end of each year. It's interesting to see how much my taste in movies has changed from year to year. Well, interesting for him at least.
Okay. Second part of that. Wow. Um, I used to collect ticket stubs.
I used to.
I collected ticket stubs until I moved back from Grand Rapids and started going to the theater that I actually work at, and they printed out on that ugly, cheap ass receipt paper.
Oh, I know, and it's not even real ticket stubs anymore.
Yeah, like you can't save it because if they get too hot, that the ink disappears. It's
And
like,
the paper turns black.
yeah, it's so bad. I hate it. I stopped. But yeah, I had for a while I had a keychain that had the ticket stubs to my favorite movies on it.
Nice.
Um, so, but yeah, I totally agree with the basic cable stuff, or watching movies on TV. That
Yeah, that can ruin a movie.
For me though, like some of this stuff, I take it one step further, right? Like some people think that Netflix is great for watching movies. There are movies that have shown up on Netflix that I'm like, I will not watch that on Netflix. I will go and buy that on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And so like even though they're on there and I don't own them, I still won't watch them. Like and it's because I want to get it the best possible way that I can. I don't want anything to interfere with it. So yeah, I mean, I do agree they do butcher it. Obviously, that's a thing. Um, some places will present a widescreen movie as full screen, which chops off like a nice portion of the picture on the sides, and man, it's just a travesty when they do that. Not to mention you get the awkward edits for language.
Yeah. One of the namely ones, Die Hard 2, where it goes, yippee-ki-yay, and then he goes, Mr. Falcon.
Wow.
Well, it's not even his voice. Like I've seen that. But,
oh wow. Yeah. All right.
But yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of movies. I think I have a collection of like 1,400.
Wait, you have 1,400 movies?
Yeah.
Wow.
That I own. But I've kind of gotten sparing with it because I would say about good 300 of them we don't really even watch, or we haven't watched since we bought it.
Oh man, I buy movies and don't watch them.
So we're very sparing on them now. I still have to get Star Trek Into Darkness, even though it's a travesty of a film. Despite what 2 people of the GCRN staff seem to think, that it's, oh, it's great, blah blah blah. That's yeah.
Personally, I just don't think it's as good as it could have been.
It's a good sci-fi movie, but it's a terrible Trek film.
Sure.
That's how I equate it, and I have plenty of backup on that.
Well, I can agree with that because I think it made Starfleet look like the bad guys.
Well, there's no, and this is another tangent, but this is my pet peeve. The science in this is so off kilter that it at least in regular Star Trek, it adds some kind of a mystery and something to Starfleet, and the science is at least plausible, whereas the Abrams verse throws it out the window and replaces it with lens flare and what can we pull from canon, the original canon that's nostalgia, but make it have like an opposite or inverted version in this film. And then you get people like, and I'm going to throw you under the bus, Blanchard, but he comments on his review of Star Trek the other day on Facebook, to which it blew out of proportion. He was making a generalized comment saying, I am not a, diehard Trekkie, so, don't crucify me. And he says that he believes that Into Darkness is a great film, and says that He liked the performance of Zachary Quinto's Khan better than William Shatner's, and thinks that Wrath of Khan is not a very good movie. To which I tagged Don in it so that we could gang up on him. My mom jumped in on it, and then various other geeks from all over the place ganged up on him, saying
I saw that and I just stayed out of it. Like I saw the I say this not as a Trek fan, and I was like, and scroll past.
Yeah, because I took offense to that because, and then Dan kind of jumped in there saying, well, how did you see it? And I told him, you have to see Space Seed, then see Wrath of Khan, then watch Into Darkness, and you'll understand. Whereas, Into Darkness, there's clearly not enough time for them to have forged the long-lasting friendships that they had by the time that film rolled around back in the 80s. So you don't have all that past of history between the characters to cause certain things to happen. So that's a whole nother topic, which that'll be in an M-Wire soon enough, and I'll get to argue my point with everybody. But getting back to his list, I have a Word document with all of my stuff listed.
There was an app I had, Delicious Library. I don't know if it's available on Windows, but it allows you to catalog all of your stuff, and then it also allows you to track who you're loaning it out to. So that's I don't know if I have that anymore, but I used it for a little bit. It was pretty neat. Any more OCD?
I don't think we have any more OCD. I think some of it's getting into some of the TV show stuff and TV stuff. The only other thing that's not related to those is Superfilm Fan 98 says, Freddie Savage and I aren't the same person, LOL. Not sure where that came from. I did recommend your site to him, so not sure if that caused the mix-up. We both frequent many of the same podcast message boards. So that's probably where I screwed it up.
Well, you know what? Either way, I'm glad I'm sorry we mixed it up. I'm glad there's two of you and not one of you.
Yes.
So
otherwise that would be awkward because
no, it would be one less listener.
It would be awkward for me.
Oh.
I'm talking to two people, but it's the same person.
That sounds like a personal problem, Steve.
Yes.
So do we have some actual geeky news we can hit on before we?
Yes. The geeky news is I retweeted this earlier in the week. Lucasfilm shows off future of filmmaking, and it shows scenes getting rendered out in real time, removing the need for post-production. Did you watch that video?
No, I did. I was bad this week.
They had, I watched it and I was quite amazed. They took, they had a giant green screen room, and they had these actors rigged up with these motion sensor things so they could rig it into the computer.
Right.
So they can animate them. And they had an R2-D2 robot kind of rolling around on the ground. But they were changing, and then it shows it on the screen. They were changing. They turned the one guy, and he walked like C-3PO, and they put the C-3PO skin right over his entire body in CG. But it looked just like the Episode 4 kind of graphics to it. I mean, it looked real.
Okay, it was fully rendered. All right.
And it was fully rendered, and they had another guy as a stormtrooper going with this like big ass gun, and it looked like, just a regular stormtrooper. And they changed the backgrounds, they changed the angle of the sun, and it would affect the lighting on everything, and it just the way that it all actively worked together. It was very mind-boggling and interesting to see.
Now, see, this is interesting to me, but at the same time, it scares me for Episode 7.
Yeah, the fact that they just did this, but
I mean, the stuff I've heard about Episode 7 is that Abrams is looking into shooting it like it was shot like 2 years after Return of the Jedi wrapped.
Yeah.
And they're trying to use as many. Supposedly, they're trying to use as many practical effects as possible and actually building sets. So this right here, I don't know, scares me.
I think this will apply to certain characters where it would be too expensive to build the thing, like such as they could do Jabba the Hutt this way, they could do characters like that, or where it's something where you can't physically fit somebody inside it, but you can kind of remorph around them. Um,
You know what I want
I
to
mean,
see?
they could use it. They might even use it. I think they used the same technology when they did Gollum
That
in Lord
wasn't
of the
in real
Rings.
time though.
No, not in real time, but it's still the same kind of technology that they used
Oh
to some
yeah,
degree.
no, it's the same
But
technology they use.
I
They use it in video games. They use it in Avatar. They use it in they use it even in episodes 1, 2, and 3. It's just a motion capture suit.
yeah,
You're
but
just seeing it immediately.
I mean I'm not sure how much I like that they're removing the need for post production because that's still I can see the need for some of it, but some of it not. I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword there.
Oh, there will still be post production because you'll have to edit, you'll have to do color timing, extra like particle effects, stuff like that. That you don't. All this really means that you can see your shot, but then in the post production will become how do we make it that much cooler? Um,
Yeah.
but interesting. It just came to me. Um, use this in a Star Wars TV show
Yeah, that would make it very cost effective.
because you don't have to. I mean, if it, I mean, it. I think it would work better if you intentionally made it like a CG Star Wars cartoon, like slightly more realistic looking than the Clone Wars.
Okay.
But everything in it being CG, like even like the humans were CG'd, but they were played by real people. It's just that their costume was added, with special effects.
Yeah.
That
That
way you
would
don't
save them
have.
some money in other areas.
I mean, yeah, you don't have a set budget. You don't really have a costume budget. They get to design all these crazy looking outfits. I think that'd be really interesting to see that applied to a TV show.
I would like to see them actually use that if they did Star Trek back to the small screen. Because if you think about how many different worlds and ship builds and locations on the ships and all that other stuff, I think that they could really kind of pull that off.
Right.
That would be something interesting to see. See, we don't just cover TV and movies; we cover some tech stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put these in the show notes too. These links to these things, but
Now we're going to talk about a movie.
yes. But this one's 20 years in the waiting. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, and that remains to be seen. But
Hold up. Were you waiting for this? You just said 20 years in the waiting. Were you waiting for this movie?
no, I wasn't personally
Okay.
waiting for
All
it.
right,
I was
just-
wondering when it was actually going to happen because they've been talking about it for 6 years.
Right.
Like a lot of other movies that they've been talking about for 6, 7 years. It says we're back, and it says Dumb 2, and it shows Jim Carrey and I can't remember the other guy's name.
Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels, that's what it was. As Larry and Lloyd in Dumb and Dumber, and they're reprising their roles, playing them just 20 years older.
Which is neat, I think. I don't really know that I had the need to know what they're doing 20 years later, but the picture was interesting because Jim Carrey looks pretty much like he did.
Yeah, and Jeff Daniels looks a little bit older, a little bit
Yep.
more ragged.
Well, I mean, they both look old. Don't get me wrong; they both look older, but Carrey looks more like his character than Jeez, oh
Jeff
Pete.
Daniels.
Yes, Jeff Daniels does. Wow.
Yeah, but
We'll
I mean,
see.
it's I while I did love the film back in the day, it's one of those films that I still enjoy it when I watch it, but I can't watch it more than once a year because it just I don't know something about it. But I still like it. I'm glad that it's those two reprising their roles and not that craptastic prequel that they've made.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, Dumber, and they used two guys that were supposed to be the younger versions of them, and
Yep.
it was just terrible. Um, it was unneeded. I mean, technically this is unneeded too, but I'm. It's kind of interesting to see Jim Carrey going back to his roots.
Yeah.
This late in the game, this will be the first time he's done a sequel to a movie since since he did Ace Ventura 2.
Okay. Yeah, his other movies
nuts.
have had sequels. They've just been not with him.
Yeah, they've like The Mask, the Son of the Mask. It was somebody else, and then same thing with Bruce Almighty. There was Evan Almighty, and I mean he's done a lot of good films in that 20 years and a lot of bad films in that 20 years. But I'm kind of excited to see him come back to an old role.
Yeah,
again, I would like to see him do another Ace Ventura movie.
You're a fan
just
of
because.
those.
Just because I love the Ace Ventura films, and I didn't care as much for Ace Ventura Jr. because it was supposed to be like, oh, it's Ace Ventura's kid. He's lost in the Bermuda Triangle, and then they had another guy with the same haircut that was supposed to be the grandpa, and it was stupid. It was like a kid version of it. But I thought it was really dumb. But I would like to see him go back to that. It'd be interesting to see if he did another Bruce Almighty or something, or something.
I think Bruce
close to
Almighty
one of his
was,
older films.
I think Bruce Almighty was set. Like
I think so too. That's why they went Evan Almighty.
Well, I would like. I mean, even I would have liked to have seen Bruce Almighty 2 than Evan Almighty. But
I agree.
Saying, like Bruce Almighty, I think was just.
It was a one shot.
Perfect. But then again, I can't. I hate doing that. Right? I haven't seen Evan Almighty.
I've seen it. It's not bad.
It's just not Bruce Almighty.
No, it's not Bruce Almighty. Oh. It's his character's not even mentioned in that film, pretty much. So it was kind of like a sequel, but not. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to see Dumb and Dumber 2 coming down the pipeline.
All right, what's the next one? Were those like the same story?
Yeah, it's the same story. It was another image. It was showing them reading a child's book.
Okay.
On the Today Show. This one had me a little bit peeved. Batman's Commissioner Gordon is getting his own origin TV series.
I am excited that it's on Fox and not the CW.
I am too, which means it'll be an actual adult program.
And it'll be canceled in 6 episodes.
I agree too, because the problem with this is not that Commissioner Gordon's not interesting, but trying to base something in the Batman universe and not having Batman is almost setting it up for a fail.
Catwoman says hi. No. Catwoman. Halle Berry. Catwoman says hi.
Oh. Yeah. Yep. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're talking about my cat? I'm like, oh. But yeah, pretty much anything without a Batman character in it is going to, in the Gotham and in that universe, is going to fail. It's going to be another cop show. There's not really going to be anything special to it other than the main character is going to be Commissioner Gordon.
I don't know.
Detective Gordon.
I get the people are kind of, some people are over the procedural cop stuff, but I've seen, like, there are some that are kind of interesting to me. I mean, because let's not forget, was he always a straight shooter? Like,
he was a detective or a lieutenant at one time when he discovered. I mean, at some point, if you're going to do an origin story, there's at some point where he's a lieutenant and he sees young Bruce Wayne and kind of helps him at that one of those points. But then have you seen Year One? Yeah. Batman Year One, the animated film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does get into some kind of the police department's shady and all this stuff. So he's kind of walking that line.
See, I
But
think that could be interesting to see. I mean, I think there's things that you can do with the characters. I mean, I'm not going to entirely write this off because it's Commissioner Gordon. Like, kind of a different thing here, right? You still need to watch this so we can talk about it. But the
yes,
Sherlock BBC series
yes,
is amazing, and based off of the success of that show and obviously the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock movies, CBS decided to do their own take on a modern day Sherlock. They did Elementary, and I originally wrote the show off. I thought it's going to be that. Not only is it like a modern day Holmes, like it is with the BBC Sherlock, it's set in New York. It's still a British guy. He just Sherlock in this case has come to New York to remove himself from like the drug scene, like he's a recovering addict. Um,
ah,
so he's come to New York, and Watson is played by a female. Lucy
Lucy
Liu.
Liu.
And I wrote it off. I was like, man, this is gonna be dumb because one of the reasons that Sherlock is so good is because the seasons are 3 episodes long. And we've talked about this, you know, sometimes we're not a big fan of the 22 episode seasons because how do you make them interesting? I originally wrote Elementary off, and I watched the first episode and it went to my train wreck pile, and I kept watching it, and it actually got better. It's not, it is nowhere near the Sherlock, the BBC Sherlock, but it is a nice appetizer while Sherlock is not on the air. Because when it is, it's only on the air for 3 times, and it's been off the air for almost 2 years now. Season 3 actually starts this fall, or like in January. And season 2 was like January of 2012. So, but yeah, I mean, it was good. So I'm not, and it is a police procedural, but it's police procedural with Sherlock Holmes. So I guess it's kind of like, what version of Commissioner Gordon are we going to see? We're probably going to see a version of Commissioner Gordon no one's ever seen before. My only question is like, which Commissioner Gordon are you going to like go for? I mean, is it because people are going to kind of wonder which one is he tied to? Does it end up being like Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon, or is it like the Commissioner Gordon from, maybe it's the Commissioner Gordon from the 66 Batman? Just, I don't know.
Or maybe it's one for the new film.
Yeah. See, that right there, I think is a nice little transition we can do to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
Do you have anything more you want to say about Commissioner Gordon as Batman? The TV show.
Only that I think all these superhero shows are kind of jumping the shark, and it's kind of like, I think there's too many of them. Well, not that there's too many of them. I think that it's because they're doing on more obscure characters or characters that nobody really gives a rip about, or they're trying to create spin-off series too much.
Well, yeah, I get that. I like the hero shows that are like original ideas. I like the ones that are original ideas. I don't like the ones like this Batman, the Commissioner Gordon series. That one, I will watch it. Sure, I look in on just about everything. And I liked Alphas. It ran for 2 seasons. I enjoyed Alphas. It's actually tied into Warehouse 13. And Warehouse 13 is also tied into Eureka. They all exist in the same world. I liked Alphas. I enjoyed Zachary Quinto on Heroes.
I did too, until they crapped the show out.
Yeah, but anytime he was on scene, like that was a train wreck show for me. But anytime he was on scene, I'd stop doing whatever I was doing. I'd stop and watch his scene until he left, and then I'd go back to doing whatever else I was doing. Like I just want to know what his character was doing, because he was so good in it. But I like, and I'm interested to watch Tomorrow People on CW, because it's another superhero show, like an original idea for a superhero show. Because I feel like those types of shows, they can do new things, they can expand on an idea, they can go places, and they get to tell new stories versus um, a lot of superhero shows that are based off of comic book properties tend to retell the story
Over,
from the
over.
comics over, with like subtle twists on them. Um, I feel like there's more room for potential with the original stuff. That's not saying like Arrow is bad. I actually enjoyed how Arrow wrapped up. I'm looking forward to season 2, and there are moments in Smallville that I actually enjoyed. But let's you want to hit on Agents of Shield?
Sure. I actually watched this last night on my on demand. Uh, I've seen different types of ratings from people on Twitter commenting that, oh, it's great, blah blah blah. Oh, it's boring, blah blah blah. And uh then oh, and then this one I'm guilty of. What the hell is going on with Agent Coulson? And after that subtle line that Maria Hill drops. Um, but I think it has potential.
Oh,
I'm
I do
willing to give it a
too.
shot.
I feel like in Movie Revolt, Dan and I had a conversation on Twitter, so everyone can actually look at it if they want to. I feel like Agents of Shield is going to be. I'm geeking out here, okay? I'm not, and I'm geeking. I'm not geeking out because it's made by Joss Whedon or because it's an Avengers like TV show, or anything like that. I'm geeking out at the idea of what this show could be in my head.
Okay.
And Marvel and Disney have tons of money right now. And I just imagine there's some kind of revenue sharing going on, like kind of like how like one movie will fund another movie,
Yeah.
like the profits, and it kind of gets all spread around so more movies can get made and stuff like that. And I feel like for better or worse, the Avengers or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to benefit from that. Like even if the ratings don't really support the show will still stay on the air because they're getting so much money from the movies.
Yeah.
However,
I can see that.
however, however, I'm geeking out at the idea that this may be a different beast of a TV show altogether. I envision it kind of like you can go to the comic book store and you can buy the comic tie-in to the Marvel movies.
Okay.
I envision Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be the live action equivalent of that, which will be available to a wider audience of people. Um, I also think that a season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. could dovetail right into
The
like
next film.
yes, like I honestly, if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does not dovetail into Captain America 2, you have failed. Like
Yeah.
eh, I think that it should. I think there needs to be a couple, like maybe a story arc or something in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that explains what was missing from Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
I think the show could be an excellent way to justify some things that may or may not be in movies, to make more sense of things, um, to inform viewers of things that they might not have picked up on, look more and I also think it provides a more human element, like an everyman human element that the rest of the Marvel universe cinematically is missing.
Yeah.
Because you don't get to see how these events affect regular people. You just get to see how they affect those people. Um,
Yeah.
but imagine this, and this is just me geeking out. Got nothing going on here, but I imagine Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. could be kind of like the geek version of the Super Bowl. 12 million people tuned in to watch the season premiere. And
Okay.
that's a look-in audience, right? That's people just tuning in to see what it's all about. I don't really think episode 2 is going to have 12 million viewers. If it does, that's amazing. And if it can maintain even like half of that, like imagine they could like raise the ad value, like the value, the buy-in of the ads that play during the Avengers or that
Oh
play
yeah.
during Agents of Shield, which in turn gives them more money. And I feel like, what are you going to do with all that money? What are you going to do with it? You have you work it out somehow. You go and you find a way to get Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth or Scarlett Johansson or anyone that's already in the that's been on the silver screen. You get them to do a walk on in your season finale. Like
Yeah.
just a walk on. They don't have to be like it could be like 30 seconds. Just a walk on. They could even like appear just on like a computer screen or something, but it's like I just feel like that would be like huge. And you could like they could tease it and be like, "Oh, Iron Man's going to be in the show." What? And people will tune in and you end up jacking up your price of your ad buys and you just end up making more money. And Dan and I had in the conversation Dan and I had, it's like he brought up the fact that the actors are all asking for more money now and they don't want to do anything that they're not contracted to do and all this other stuff. And I just brought up to him, I reminded him, 5 years ago no one thought the Avengers was a possibility,
And yet
and
here it lies.
yes, and we're in it now. We're post Avengers now, and I feel like with the amount of money, yes, they want more of it, but I just feel like the amount of money these things are making, and a walk-on role is such a small thing. I mean, yeah, you can tease like, oh, Thor was just here, or oh, I just got off the phone with Tony Stark. You can only do that for so long. You can only play that
Oh
up
yeah.
for so long before someone actually has to show up. Um,
Eventually.
in like I said, even if it's just a walk-on cameo. I mean, yeah, Maria Hill has already gone from the silver screen down to the TV show. So there's that link there other than Coulson. Um but that's my initial thoughts on it, and I'm not a fan of Joss Whedon. The show did not blow my socks off, and I'm not a fan of the Avengers. But I will, like I told you on Twitter, I think need to find a third category to place Agents of Shield in, because it's not a must
Yeah.
watch for me, but it's not a train wreck for me either. Um, I think
It's one of those things I just gotta play it by ear and kind of see what happens.
I think the second episode is going to determine a lot for me. Um, what is your opinion of Agent Coulson?
This one I'm kind of stuck because, as people know, I'm more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan. So I really don't know all that much about Marvel, other than what's in the films. So going on that, uh, I would probably say that more than likely, it's not the real Agent Coulson.
I can get behind that.
Only because the line, and this is spoilers for anybody that, I mean, you obviously know that Coulson died in Avengers, but this is a spoiler as far as the show's concerned. Maria Hill, the doctor asks Coulson about something, asking him if he's all right or whatever, and he's like, yeah, blah blah blah, and then he goes off, and then the doctor leans over to Maria Hill and says, he really doesn't know, does he? And she says, he must never know. And then that's the only lines they leave. So it makes you wonder what really is going on, because he seems to think he was on a 6-week hiatus in Tahiti after the Avengers event,
Mm-hmm.
and thinks he blacked out for 40 seconds.
Yep.
And in all reality, more than likely, he died. And she's like some high actual level 7 and knows what actually happens, next to, because obviously she's second to Nick Fury, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was always kind of third anyway. But I'm thinking he's one of those, the model android,
The life model decoys.
Yeah, the life model decoy. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that's probably what he is, but I've also heard people saying that he's probably the Vision, which I wouldn't know either way. It just depends on what Joss Whedon decides to do with him, but I also can see that if he is a life model decoy, that there are more than one of him. So I could see them possibly like having one. At some point he'll find out that he's a decoy and not the real Coulson, and they could use him as like cannon fodder.
I
But
hate that.
I could see them doing it though.
Yeah.
But I could also see him accidentally discovering the fact that he's an android because of either a blast that happens to him or the fact that he has like some of the android super strength and healing and aspects of that, and wondering what happened to him.
I'm going to throw this out there. I said this to you on Twitter, and we had a little exchange about how that can't be it because somebody was already cast. I just want to put this out there because things have been misled before. People have said they're not Star Trek Into Darkness. Benedict Cumberbatch has said over and over again he was not Khan, not Khan. They always said he's not Khan. I'm just going to go and just put myself out there, and because I like Agent Coulson so much, I wonder if he's not Ultron or like some derivative of what becomes Ultron.
Well, and I was reading this in some research earlier because I know that the guy that's in the blacklist
James
is playing
Spader.
Ultron.
Yep.
Yeah. He's playing Ultron. I'm wondering because it does say that Ultron creates the Vision in some continuities.
Yes. Well, they're kind of like one and the same because they're both androids, I think. And what it is, it all spins out of Hank Pym creating like a jailer, like a guard for a prison. That's what Ultron is supposed to be, but then he creates Vision to oversee Ultron, or some. It's so messed up. I don't. I'm almost.
It's convoluted.
Yeah. But I just want to put it out there because I would like to see him back on the silver screen, and I think I can get hate, but you know what? You don't know that I'm wrong. So until you know that I'm wrong, you're just hating me for having an opinion. But I would like to, what if he is? What if he is Ultron? I mean, they've cast people before and said that they're not that person. And I'm actually it's actually more interesting that Marvel's actually come out and said, yeah, this is who he is. It's like, who does that? Like,
yeah.
Why reveal something that early? But then that's the fanboy in me wanting Coulson to come back to the big screen, because especially after watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, he was sorely missed from Iron Man 3.
Oh, I know. He would have been such a perfect character for that.
Now,
but I also like the references to Iron Man 3 that, not only with the Extremis, but the fact that when Coulson's trying to call Tony Stark, he's like, "You're talking to my life model decoy."
I need to rewatch it.
In Avengers, in Avengers, it wasn't in Iron Man 3. It was in Avengers, but he
okay.
So it also could lead to the fact that maybe he, rebuilt him.
Well, we don't really know where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D hasn't really placed itself, has it? I mean, it's post Avengers.
It's after the Avengers, and it's after Iron Man 3, because he knows what Extremis is, and there's if you see on the screens in the background, it's scanning various different Iron Man suits.
Okay.
They're wondering about the Extremis, and then they're talking about Hydra.
Well, see,
here they call him Centipede.
Well, but here's the thing: does Extremis really place it after Iron Man 3? Because
it could be during.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, or it could even be before. I mean, was Extremis actually because S.H.I.E.L.D was absent from Iron Man 3, right? We don't have this answer. So could S.H.I.E.L.D have known about Extremis before? I mean,
it's possible. This could be an early form of Extremis, being that they had the centipede thing on their wrists, on their arms, and the later Extremis didn't need it.
Well, no, okay. The cocktail was a mixture of everything, and Extremis was one of the additives. Remember, they said what was in it was like the super soldier serum. It was gamma radiation. It was there was something else, and then they were like, and there's some new compound, and Coulson says it's Extremis.
So I would technically place it after Iron Man 3 then, if that's the case, because they would be capitalizing on the fact that Extremis is out there now.
True. I mean, but like I said, they don't do a good job of placing the where
But
it is. But
but they do show footage of the different Iron Man suits
right.
scanning in the background.
Well, but that could have happened at any point in time.
Well, they were flying.
Oh, so wait, was it a scene from Iron Man 3 was on the screen?
They not exact scenes, but they had various suits kind of flying in the hologram screen behind them at points.
I'll have to look through that again. Um,
Because I was picking up different helmet formations of the Iron Man suit.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Coulson being alive, more or less?
I mean, that's entirely possible. I mean, I've also heard that Scarlet Witch could have brought him back.
No. Just that he's back.
Oh, and the fact that he's back in the show?
Yeah, he's back at all. Not that just that he's alive, but that he's back. Like,
that's the only reason I'm watching this, really. If it were the other people in there, like, I mean, yeah, Maria Hill's kind of important, but to me, it's all about Coulson. Yeah, if he wasn't in this show, I don't think I would have given it the shot that I'm giving it right now.
Yeah, and I like tuned in because of that.
And I like the chick that they brought in outside of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Skye.
Yeah, that Coulson is trusting and talking with because he doesn't know anything about her. But in that essence, it also means that she's less likely to be a spy on the inside. And people are already kind of guessing that one of the Fitz or Simmons are going to be a spy for Hydra. Sabotaging them from the inside. Either that, or it's going to be that's the only two I can think of that would fit, honestly.
Personally, hated one of the things I hate about the Avengers was that Joss decided to kill Coulson. I get the argument that is the team building thing that brings them all together. I understand that, but for me, like even before Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was around, I was like, I don't think he's dead. Like even in that moment, I was like, there was just something about when he throws the cards on the table and they're bloody that just made me think, because Nick Fury is a manipulative son of a bitch.
Well, and I was believing the same thing that you were coming out of that he was still alive, that they were just like holding him somewhere so that the Avengers didn't know that he was still alive.
Yeah.
Like they could have put him in a stasis tube of some kind and preserved him until they could have got him to another facility or something and use some kind of nanites or something, or the Extremis to rebuild him.
I mean, yeah, I just choose to believe that Nick Fury is a manipulative son of a bitch, and he needed the Avengers to accomplish this goal, and he used any means necessary, and that included lying to them, telling them that that Coulson had died. And I do not think Nick Fury is a nice guy. I don't know. He's supposed to be
an asshole.
Yeah, like I don't know of an incarnation of Fury that is a nice. Yeah, he's a cool character, but he's a dick.
Yeah, and every time.
There's an issue. There's a scene in the Ultimate. I think it's Ultimate X-Men, where Wolverine gets a phone call from Nick Fury, and Fury's asking him to go kill a guy, like just straight up go kill a kid. That's the kind of guy he is. He's cold. He's like, this is my mission. This needs to get done, and I'm going to do it by any means necessary. And I totally think that whole scene was manipulative. There was something like the way Maria Hill responded to it, or doesn't she say something like the blood was a nice touch, or
I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that now.
Yeah, there's something about getting the cards out of his locker, like he left the cards in his locker or something. I don't know. Like there's something with the dialogue.
There's a line in there
involving those cards that leaves that open, and I just chose it to mean that Nick Fury is in fact a manipulative dick. But yeah, let us know. I want to know what you guys think of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Are you glad that Coulson's back? Do you wish he would have been dead? Do you think it wrecks the entire cinematic universe? Personally, like I said, I could have used him in my Iron Man 3, or somebody like him at least. Maria Hill would have been nice in Iron Man 3, but that's a whole nother story. We've been down that road before, and I've been browbeaten for it. So
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what they do. So I think that as we discussed off air, we will cut this short and make the TV part a bonus feature for the episode.
yeah, I didn't. I realized in reading through my comments on the website that a lot of people might not care, and I don't want to alienate the listeners by getting ultra technical with TV talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think we'll cover. I don't want to cover everything because there's a lot to cover, and I don't want to talk forever about it. So I think we'll kind of break this into parts, over the next couple of episodes, as like a HDTV 101.
Yeah, do like little bonus features at the end of every episode.
Yeah, that way we don't alienate people that just want to come here and listen to us talk about everything. But yeah, so stick around after the closing music and stuff, and we'll talk about that.
Yes. So I'll give the contact details before we do that. So you can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Please be sure to leave us feedback so we know that you like the show and it helps bring iTunes people. Call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. Tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. You can become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can contact us on Twitter at Geekcast Radio, and also using the hashtag #AlteredGeek. You can visit the forums at geekcastradio.com or comment on this episode post. My Twitter name is at SCP21, and yours is
at Booth Ninja 81. And just so everyone can have something to look forward to, episode 10, the 10th episode, we're going to have a third chair. So we'll see how that goes. The plan is to every 0 and 5, every episode that ends in a 0 or a 5, going forward, should have a third chair on it. So it's not just going to be Steve and I. We'll see if we can get any dissenting opinions in in this show. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. Hope to see if you guys enjoy that, and hopefully it's not too big of a mess.
No. And just a few questions that I kind of came up with on spur of the moment through the script. Obviously, we have the one of that you mentioned earlier of, have you snuck in something for yourself under the guise of a family gift? And then the two that I have from earlier are, what's your favorite new fall TV show? And I'm saying new, not returning, new. Or even if there is, something you like about one of the returning ones that kind of switch things up a little bit from previous seasons, that would, just let us know. And then I think that's sufficient. Okay. The other one I can save.
All right.
So until next time, and well, stay tuned for the bonus if you want to hear the TV stuff. So
you gave up on your sign off?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, if you stuck around to hear us talk about HD TVs, I'm assuming your name is probably Freddie Savage. What we've decided to do, instead of just dumping everything here, we're going to keep your questions that you ask me in the forums. We're going to answer one of those over the course of the next few shows. At the end, like this, it's going to be an HDTV 101. Obviously, anyone is free to listen and correct us if we are really wrong about something here. Because I don't know everything. I know a lot about them, but I don't know everything. But on the first episode of HDTV 101, we're going to be addressing the first question, which you asked, saying that you're looking at a new TV and you're not sure if you should go with a plasma, an LED, or an LCD. So we're going to talk about the panels for a second here. As I said in the forum, there are 3 types of panels, and the panel is that is what brings you the picture. The panel is where the pixels are. There is LCD, there is plasma, and there is a new panel, at least to TVs anyways, called OLED, which stands for Organic Light Emitting Diode. So basically, the differences between them really come down to the lighting for them. LCD TVs use 2 types. There's 2 types of lighting for an LCD TV. There are CCFL, which is a cold compact fluorescent lighting. That is like if you're in an office building and you see like the overhead lights and they're that long tube.
Okay.
That is what is in your TV. There's like probably three to 4 of those behind your TV screen, and those are what add the depth. The TV is that deep because it has those light bulbs in them. The other type of backlighting for a LCD, which can also be used as edge lighting, is called LED lighting. Now, a LED lighting can be used in like as backlighting, where the light is actually physically behind the panel, or in most modern LCD TVs, it can be used in what's known as edge lighting, and that's where you get the really thin TVs, like the ones that are like less than an inch thick, like the one that I have in my family room and the one that I have in my bedroom. The LEDs for them are in the bezel and shine into the screen. And from there, it uses a set of diffuser panels to get the light to spread evenly across the back of the picture. The other way to do it is you put strips of LEDs behind the screen, kind of like the CCFL bulbs would be in an older TV, and the light is shot at you. Is shot through the screen. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Plasma is all the light from a plasma comes from the pixel itself. The pixel is actually charged and it produces a light. That is why plasmas get the blackest blacks. They call them inky black. They go from bright white to dead black, because when a plasma TV, when the pixel is supposed to be black, it is off. Which is great, because LCD TVs cannot do that. LCD TVs cannot show you true black. And I'll explain why as soon as I get through this. OLEDs, that is a new thing to me, and I really should have done my homework on this, but they're $5,000 plus TVs right now, and I don't think that's in your price range. No. So I'm going to skip that for right now. I will look into it, and I will address that on the next episode. But now, some of the problems that I can talk about with an LCD TV. I'm looking into plasmas, as I've talked about on the show. Steve has offered to let me come over and play with his. But I can speak from an LCD standpoint, because I have a CCFL LCD TV. I have a backlit LCD LED TV, and I have an edge lit LCD LED TV. The reason that LCD TVs will never show you true black ever is because of something called light leaking, and because they are actually lit there was a light source driving, lighting up the picture. The light gets between the pixels
Okay.
because they're not they're really close together, but light still gets between the pixels. And so even when a pixel is off, it's it will look dark. Um, there's still light coming through because it's a white light and it's sneaking past like a really tiny sliver. Like if you get really close to a TV or any flat panel monitor and you can see the pixels and you see the red, green, blue, in between like the blue and the red pixel,
Yeah.
there is a black line, and that is the edge
Mm-hmm.
of the pixel. Light comes through that. Um, and so you can't do it. Now, some TVs, uh, LED TVs, um, really wish I wouldn't say that because I don't want to. LCD TVs that are lit by LEDs have better control over their lighting than a CCFL TV.
Okay.
Like my CCFL LCD TV cannot when the light is on, it is on, and it is shooting light out all the time. Um, my LED TVs do like a local dimming
Uh-huh.
where they will turn the LEDs off in varying degrees depending on how dark the picture is supposed to be. So, um, the best example I have is with my flagship Samsung TV. It When you watch a show or a movie and you have the black bars at the top and the bottom,
Yeah.
that's where you can really notice the difference between a plasma and an LCD. Um, with watching it on a standard LCD TV, those black bars aren't black; they're like a really dark gray. And then
Mm.
on my flagship Samsung, with the local dimming for the LEDs, it turns off the LEDs that would light up the black bars.
Okay.
So there's like a 4-inch strip of LEDs that gets shut off, so no light is being shown behind those black bars. So essentially, they're off because they're not being lit. But it looks great and it works because those LEDs can be turned off independently of the rest of the LEDs that are needed to light up the picture. Um, and that's fine. That doesn't happen with plasmas, like I said, because they produce their own light. And so when you get the black bars at the top and the bottom and it's black, those pixels are off. They don't need to do that smart, tricky stuff. Um, that said, LEDs, LCD TVs, aren't. Some of this is like myth, and I know some of this stuff is not like an issue so much anymore with plasmas. They are immune to screen burn in. And by immune, I mean you can leave it on, but you can't leave it on for like thousands of hours. Yes, you can burn in an LCD TV if you leave it on for thousands of hours displaying the exact same image
Yeah.
repeatedly. That will damage anything. Um, the There used to be a discrepancy with like input lag and stuff like that, but that's something we could talk about on another episode. Um, the reason plasmas are susceptible to LCD or are susceptible to burn-in is because they produce their own light, and that light is shining against a phosphorus layer on the screen, and it burns that layer.
Ah.
That's where you get your screen burn-in. Apparently, that's not a thing anymore, because they have all these like things like you talked about how they have the pixel shifting thing, and they have like this screen wipe that you can run and it fixes all that stuff. Um, uh, but that's the extent I can talk about on this segment about the panels. If you're a gamer, I think an LCD TV would be the way to go. Um, if you like movies, a plasma is the way to go. And again, these are my opinions and what I've learned over the last 7 years of researching TVs. Like every 2 months, I go and look at whatever the newest thing is. And the reason a plasma TV is better for movies is because it has a wider color range. You get you get the true blacks and you get the whites and everything in between. And if I don't know, it's so much a personal preference because there was, it's really the difference between LCD and plasma is kind of like Android versus iOS or Windows versus OS 10.
Yeah.
They're both going to give you a good picture, and most of the stuff I can tell you about them, if you see them, you won't unsee them. But if you don't
Yeah.
see them, you'll never see them. And it's one of those instances where that phrase ignorance is bliss is true. I
Yeah.
I mean, I see stuff on my TV that my wife says she can't see. Like sometimes she looks at me like I'm crazy because I'm talking about how I see um the light from my edge LED TV because I'm sitting off center is washing out the side of the TV opposite me. Like it's washing out the color. And that's because of the way that it's lit. That wouldn't happen on a plasma because all the light is even keel. It's producing its own light. Um, but yeah, if you like video games, I say go with an LCD because you're less likely to inherit problems. Less. Um, if you like movies, go with a plasma. You rule of thumb when you're buying one, um, generally you can get a larger plasma for a cheaper price than an LCD.
That is
Um,
true.
it it was very true like 4 years ago. It's not.
It's
It's
they're
getting
about even now.
yes, but you
It
can
just
still.
depends
I
on
think you
features.
save. Yeah, it's features. One, it's features, and two, I think it's just kind of it's like down to like a couple $100 difference.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and one of the other features I've noticed is LCD and LED TVs tend to have more of the smart TV features, whereas the plasmas don't necessarily have it unless you want to spend a lot more money.
that I can see, and I'm not sure why that is.
I
Um,
think it might have something to do with the fact that it's a static image, usually with just stuff that changes in the middle. Like
yeah.
you have a lot of the same interface surrounding things, but it's the center part that changes consistently. So
Hmm.
I could see where that would not be good for a plasma.
Yeah,
Uh,
the F8500, the Samsung F8500 that my wife and I are looking at has all the smart TV functionalities in it. Um, I mean, my TV hasn't. I don't even. Excuse me. I don't even use them. But um, so panels. Just going back to the panel, which ultimately affects the entire TV. Um, Plasmas tend to be heavier than LCD TVs. They also tend to be a little thicker than LCD TVs. They consume more power than LCD TVs. Um, although that the power thing is coming like pricing, it is getting better. Um, otherwise, I wouldn't even be looking at a plasma.
they're about an inch and a half to 2 inches thick now at this point.
Yeah, I
My
mean they're
first plasma was about 3.5 inches thick, and then my newer one that I have now that's a 52 inch is uh it is about an inch and a half, inch and 3/4 thick.
but they are heavier than LCD TVs.
Yeah,
Um,
you can carry an LCD under your arm one handed, whereas
yeah.
a plasma you have to use both hands.
Um, so that's about it on the panels. Um, gaming, like you said, LCD. Um, Movies go with a plasma. I think honestly, I think at the end of the day, either one is going to do exactly. Obviously, either one is going to show you a picture.
Yeah,
Um, I can get into like on a future episode of this, I can get into the nitty gritty of why LCD panels aren't that great, but I don't really want to. I don't want to inform you on something and then have you be able to see it because I'd rather you not see it.
one thing I noticed, and this is kind of going off a little bit too, when I was because I my first TV that I ever bought was a 42-inch plasma Panasonic. When the soundboard started going bad on that, and I started hearing it, it started bothering me more. So I started actually hooking it up to my surround sound so that I didn't have to hear that problem. It kind of bypassed it, but But when I went looking at new TVs, uh, and usually they have the displays of them, and you have multiple TVs surrounding each other, and
Mm-hmm.
um, they usually they'll try and sell you on whatever one they're going to make the biggest profit on because they always have some kind of particular deal running with whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily mean that that's the TV that you have to get, because even though they're pushing their damnedest to get you to do it,
Right.
because it may not be the best picture quality. One thing that you should check is look at the difference in the colors between the shows, because a lot of the time they'll have the same show playing on multiple TVs, different brands and different sizes. So what you want to do is look for the truest. I mean, I know you can adjust a lot of it, but you can tell, like, just for instance, if you're watching like when they show a football game, you'll see the graphics around the edges, and you'll be able to tell if something's kind of washed out a little bit, or if the detail with the lines look proper, uh, whether they're grainy or not, and that kind of stuff. That's something that I look at when I look at TVs. Um,
Well,
as far as some of the detail in the screen when you're watching something, I know it's not optimized or anything, but it's still it's something that brings to my attention.
okay. The only thing I have to say, and this goes back to the research I did. I talked about it earlier in this episode when I was researching my first TV. The picture that you see in the store, two things about it. First one, that's what's called a torch mode, and everything comes out of the box set to its like the brightness comes out cranked to its highest setting, and that is to blow the colors out and to get you to look at that TV. So, and every TV has that. Like it's a setting that I can still use on my TV. Like I go to reset and it's like, I can click the reset button. It says, do you want to are you using it at home, or are you setting it up in a store? And if you click store, it blows out it cranks the backlight all the way up to 20 and just burns your eye sockets out. And every TV does that because you're right. There you can see the difference in the colors when you're there, because the thing is that TV is going to look so much better when you get it in your home. Like if you think it looks good on the wall, it's going to look better at home.
Yeah, because you can adjust it from there.
Yeah, first of all, when you take it out of the box, you can say I'm using it at home and not in the store. The other thing is the feed that is on the TVs, like on the wall. Like you go walk into a Best Buy and all the TVs on the wall have that feed is being split. It's one feed being split amongst all those channels, and that is not the way to use those TVs.
No.
And so it's like, yeah, it's one thing to go and you see the same thing on all the TVs and the color might pop on this. First of all, you're in the store, an LCD TV is going to look brighter than a plasma. Always. Yeah. But it's that content, it's going to look just as crappy on one TV as the other. All your eye is going to be able to perceive is which one is brighter. And that's not good. And that's why I say, like, when you go into a store and you're like, I want to try out, you want to see HD content on something, ask them to hook up a source box. I've started going to Paul's TV. Paul's TV in Art Van will let you play with everything. They will give you the remote. They will let you turn auto motion on and off. And that is a whole nother thing to talk about when we start talking about frame rates. But I'm pretty sure if I was going in there to buy one today, they would move their Blu-ray player over to the TV that I was buying and I'd be able to play my movie on it. Like, so I could actually see the difference, like, and they let me adjust all the settings and tweak the colors. And yes, they do the same thing. Their stuff is blown out so that, you can see the colors and the differences between the TVs and stuff like that. It's just really, it's going to matter. It's going to look completely different when you get it home and you get the colors tweaked and you get it set up just right. But it's just deceiving when you go to the store. Usually when I go to the store, it's so I can see it, like what the TV actually looks like.
Yeah.
More so than checking picture quality. That's just me though. I do a lot of my picture research stuff online.
I do a lot of it by looking at multiple TVs at different places and different brands and what's in my price range. Like, what can I get for the best picture in my price range? And I look at, reviews online and that kind of stuff for part of it. But a lot of the time, I will go up to a TV and kind of look at, like, for instance, if they have that stationary, like, boxing around stuff in like when you're watching certain like games, like for instance they had like football on or something the day that I
Okay.
looked at the TVs, and they have the letterboxing kind of stuff at the bottom of the screen where they have all the statistics or the names or
Oh,
that kind of
okay,
stuff.
okay,
I
okay.
look at those when I'm looking at the
For
picture quality
for clarity.
for clarity, because if it's
Okay.
grainy, then I mean I know that the same feed's piping into multiple TVs for, well, at least for depending on the section you're in. But I look to see if the boxes look clear, because if the edging of the boxes or if there's like graininess in the picture on the boxes, then I'm really going to notice it when I'm watching something else or playing a game.
That is true to an extent. I think that is a perfect example of the TV's ability to process a signal, like no matter how good or bad that signal may be. I think that is a perfect example of that. But I honestly, I think if you got one of the TVs that was like maybe it was like $200 less than what you were going to pay, and it had like that signal didn't look as good as the one that was $200 more. I think when you got it home and hooked it up to your cable with your games, you would not see that stuff.
Well, this is the thing. The TV that we ended up with was a 50 or 52-inch plasma Samsung. My TV was going bad, and I tried to. I really was adamant I wanted another Panasonic plasma. Well, they said it was going to be 6 weeks out, and I'm like, well, I'm not waiting 6 weeks for a new TV. So, uh, they said, well, we do have a comparable model in the Samsung, and for $100 more, you can upgrade to the 50 or 52-inch. And I said, okay, then let's do that. And they kept trying to hard sell me on the LGs, which were the ones that they were making the big bucks and getting the extra commission for. And they kept trying to hard sell me on this LG TV that was sitting next to the Samsung I really wanted. Uh, and I just started noticing the picture quality, but the LG was actually cheaper than the Samsung, like
Mm-hmm.
on sticker. And they're like, "Oh, well, blah blah blah. This is the better TV," and blah blah blah. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and both my wife and I were like, "No, we're gonna stick with the Samsung." And I mean, it's just the overall quality was looking much better on the Samsung TV than it was on the LG.
Right. All right. Well, I think that's
The
pretty
only other
good.
thing I would say, and not getting any too technical on it, this just has to do with lighting of the room,
Oh
uh,
yeah, yeah.
or from your window. LED, LCD, and plasma. The main difference you're going to notice is LED and LCD don't get the as bad of sun glare. It's more of a flat screen, whereas a plasma is the glossy screen. So if you don't have complete darkness or some kind of thing blocking the sun or the direct light from hitting your screen, it'll wash out.
Actually, that is because LCDs use the glossy screen now too.
Oh, they do now too.
Yeah. So that actually what that is it's the lighting. It's the actual lighting in the TV. Um your your plasma or plasma is fighting directly against sunlight, and cuz the light comes from the panel itself. There is
Yeah,
no light behind it. The plasma is fighting with direct sunlight, and that's why it gets washed out. Um an LED or an LED or a CCFL LCD TV being edge lit or rear lit is a more powerful light source. Um, like you'll still get glare, but it won't get washed out. The picture won't get washed out
yeah.
by the light source. Yeah, that is an important thing. Again, that is something where plasmas are accelerating. They're getting better at fighting against light sources and stuff like that. So if you have any question about just the panels. We're going to address in future episodes. We're going to address frame rate. We're going to address resolution. We'll address the automotion business and stuff like that, and we'll talk pricing
and the plugging and the back and
yeah, and brands and stuff like that. We'll talk about all that stuff on future episodes. So don't worry about that. But if you have any questions about the panels themselves, let us know if you have any specific questions about plasma and LCD. And we will try to answer them, and I will look into the technology behind OLED TVs, because that is like the OLED TVs are supposed to be like the cream of the crop. That is why they are like $5,000.
Some things I was reading is it's not that big of an upstep from what we have now.
It is when you go, because in layman's terms, it is an LCD TV with plasma colors.
Okay.
It's like it's an LCD that emits its own light. If that and for example, if you have anyone that has a PlayStation Vita, that has an OLED screen in it. If you have an Android phone and it was made by Samsung, chances are it has an OLED screen in it. Yours, unfortunately, does not, Steve.
Mine sucks. I will just say that up front.
iPhones do not have OLED screens in them; they use LCD screens. But yeah, if you have an Android phone or you have a Vita, chances are you've seen the smaller version of an OLED screen, and they are amazing. But yeah, I will look more into it. But in layman's terms, it's an LCD that creates its own light, like a plasma does, and consumes much less electricity, and it's supposed to be like the bee's knees for everything. But I will look into that. But if you have any questions about plasmas or LCDs, send them to us. Let us know, and we will answer that before we jump into the next topic on the next show. So yeah, hopefully we were able to help you out.
Yes, hopefully it's not too convoluted for you and you can understand everything we just talked about.
Yeah, like I said, right before we go, plasmas for movies, LCDs for gaming, and yeah, I mean, but we'll talk more on another episode.
Sounds good. So until next time, see you guys.